Meantime, I want to highlight a few of the things that have a lot of Americans worried about what could happen here due to failures on the testing front. New reporting from Reuters shows that the U.S. trailed behind the response that we saw out of South Korea. South Korea moved very quickly to implement testing across that nation. Through the first 7 weeks, they marked a total of 290,000 tests administered to citizens, while over that same time period, despite having its first case reported on the same day as South Korea, according to Reuters, the U.S. only administered 60,000. So quite a difference there. And of course, this is something that we've continued to track. And it is something that has become a bit of a personal story for me as well. My own brother is actually joining us now, who tested positive for coronavirus earlier in the week. And he joins us now via Google Hangout. Trace Guzman on the line, a junior at Stanford who is studying abroad in Spain. Trace, you're in self quarantine right now, so thank you for taking the time to join us. When we're talking about this, though, maybe give everyone a little bit of background here in regards to how you did find out you had tested positive and what the process was like to actually get that test.
Yeah, so the process to get the test was easier than some of my friends that I've heard about. It was a matter of calling our county public health department and finding out that there are two locations in my county that were offering the test. One of which had one test available, and they were trying to hold it. For who? I'm not exactly sure. And then the other one was a hospital, and the county told us that they would be only willing to test me, as I had been in contact with someone that had tested positive. And then when we contacted the hospital directly, they said that they wouldn't be turning anyone away. So I got tested along with both of my parents.
Your parents and my parents. What kind of was the process here too? Because studying abroad in Spain, we heard from so many students who said that they were going to need to get out of there, that a lot of these programs were going to be shut down. But the question became whether or not you'd be going back to school, back to Stanford's campus, or back home. And you even asked Stanford whether or not you could go back for the quarter, right? And then they said no.
Yes. Obviously, they're trying to give us information as quickly as they could and as they made decisions. But I was expecting to go back to campus for a spring break program that was canceled. And then a couple days later, it became the fact that students that are off campus should not come back to campus. And then it has developed into the fact that all students should be gone by today off campus, save for extenuating circumstances.
But what is that? I mean, when you're thinking about whether or not that's a good policy here, and a lot of people are debating whether campuses, if you do have I guess we're learning more about what age groups might be most susceptible to these things here, in attempts to flatten the curve versus going home to potentially an older population. I'm not sure if that question's been raised in the Stanford community, in the college community, as you talk about all the blowback that a lot of younger Americans have gotten for maybe not self-quarantine or getting tests done.
Definitely, yeah. And there's been debate as to what they should have done, as they have sent home students in the midst of a mini outbreak, it seems like, at Stanford. There have been a few cases at Stanford in the undergraduate population. So some students have wondered if it was a good idea to send these students that have probably been exposed to the virus back across the country, into homes that might have their grandparents in it, into communities that might have immunocompromised people. And so seeing the effects of that, or speculating on the effects of that, is a little scary, and makes us wonder if it was the right thing for Stanford to do, given what has happened.
Well, at the very least, I mean, you knowing what happened in your own situation, credit where credit's due. I know I'm biased because I'm your brother, but you went straight home. I think you made one stop at an In-N-Out. So, I mean, you were at least active in making sure that this wasn't spread after even you had some doubts, some question marks about whether or not you were exposed to coronavirus abroad. But real quick, lastly, before we let you go, because I know you got a lot to do in self-quarantine here, how are you feeling? And then also, what have you seen about there's so much pushback here about younger people saying that they're not adhering to social distancing. I know you made a point to kind of tell everybody out there yesterday that that's important. because it's not necessarily about younger, healthy populations. It's about who they could be contacting.
Yeah, and it's really scary for people my age because they could have it and not show any symptoms, or in my case, show very mild symptoms. When I went to the doctor, I felt a little silly even telling him about my symptoms because they weren't exaggerated in the way that I thought they were. Some of which I didn't know were even symptoms of coronavirus. So yeah, it can be scary for people my age knowing that you could have the virus and not know it. And it could be scary, and it also could allow some people to think that they can go places that they shouldn't be going. But I think they should be canceling that spring break trip, or maybe holding off on the hot body yoga for a week or something. And I think
Yeah, well, you should be holding off on the hot buddy yoga for quite some time, my friend. Enjoy the rest of the quarantine back in Frisco, Texas, and thank you so much for joining us. My brother, Trace Guzman, a junior at Stanford. Thanks, man.
Hey, investors, Zack Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.